dirt road off a 2-lane past a shot-up county sign. Squeaking of a backyard screen door letting you know that it's
The Putnam Personalities podcast exists to highlight the good, the positive, and the inspirational in our community. This episode is not an endorsement of any political or religious ideology. This podcast is a simple interview to get to know our friends, neighbors, leaders, and colleagues on a more personal level. Sit back, grab some sweet tea, and enjoy today's interview.
Like home to me.
Hey man, how are you doing today?
To be honest, I'm a little nervous. This is not something I've ever done before. So I have some friends that have podcasted, and I've had the opportunity to kind of help them a little bit, like give ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But to actually do this and branch out on my own is a little nerve-wracking, I guess. So anyway, I wanted to do this podcast because since I've been here for 11 years. We moved here in 2013 and made Putnam County our home. And when we moved here, we heard all the negative stuff. Don't eat at this restaurant. Don't do this. Crime level is this. It was just, everything was negative.
Right.
And we moved here, and it was, to bring a family here, honestly, it was very unsettling. But once we got in, we got acclimated into our community, and we learned to love it. And we realized that things were not as bad as the pictures everybody painted. So with that being said, I want to start a podcast. I think it's important that we focus on the positive things in our community, not just always the negative.
Right.
And one thing that I'm sure we're well aware of is people make our community. And I want to kind of highlight some of the people in our community. I'm not really looking, like if I'm interviewing a politician, I'm not looking to find out what they want to do if they, get it, elected. That's not my goal.
Right.
My goal in this is very simple: to ask you more about yourself, get to know more about your background, get to know the people in our community. And I'm going to do a little bit of talking just at the beginning to kind of open up, and then the rest is yours. But a couple of years ago, Tim Frill, one of our officers in our county, well respected, I believe. He
Absolutely.
I met him in a parking lot at the gas station. I was getting gas, and he's like, "Hey, Pastor Jason." He came over and gave me a hug, and that's the first time I ever hugged a police officer. And not that I make that a habit, but
Sure.
but when I gave him a hug, I realized that it wasn't just a shirt he was wearing. I realized there was body armor underneath, and it really melted my heart. Like, I thought about it, like, this man leaves to work every day, puts this on, and is not guaranteed to come home. And it made me respect the law enforcement even more, and to humanize law enforcement. And I met you, I haven't seen you on TV and stuff like that, but back in 2020, 2021, there was a lot of disenfranchisement, I guess you would say, for the sheriff's department and police officers in general across our country. A lot of disrespect. And our church decided to step up and just do something fun, but something I thought was productive. And that allowed us to meet a lot of our officers in our community, and that allowed me to have even more respect. So, a couple weeks ago, I was at the fair, seeing a lot of our officers with their kids in hand, riding rides. Even the sheriff was out there, pushing pigs away while they were showing pigs.
That's right.
But everybody was doing their part, and it reminded me that we are a community, and that each officer in our community is a person, not just somebody with a badge or somebody. It's a dad, it's a husband, it's a grandfather, and it's an uncle. And I just kind of want to get to know you more a little bit.
Sure.
And so I guess we'll start with that. I was looking at your corner shelf, and I saw all your trophies and all your plaques.
25 years worth of memorabilia over there, just about. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So anything you want to talk about specifically over there?
As I look over, there's, really nothing that's special. Yeah, there's times where we get recognized for certain events that come up, but in the end of the day, you look over there and everything you see, life-saving awards, meritorious service awards. It's really just, it's routine business. It's every one of our deputy sheriffs and law enforcement officers go out there every day and do this type of stuff all the time, but it just really never really gets recognized too much, and they don't seek the recognition for it, because it's just, to them, it's just a day at the office. So yeah, it's nice to have those things that are there and to be recognized for certain things, but really the one that probably may surprise you that stands out a little bit is the one from the Florida Coalition Against Domestic Violence. That's something, domestic violence, that I have a passion for. over the time and the career. Never experienced it in my personal family, but I realized just how destructive domestic violence is to our community as a whole because of how it affects children for their lifetime. So domestic violence is really something I've developed a passion for, and I'm honored. I sit on the board of directors for the Lee Conley House. I've been doing that for years, and really have worked a lot with others in the agency to really change the way we look at and approach domestic violence. So getting a statewide award for advocacy for domestic violence victims and a no tolerance stance for the suspects, I think that of all of those is probably pretty meaningful, just because that's just one of the things that I have a passion for fighting with. Everything we have is domestic violence.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was looking at the awards while waiting for you this morning. I saw 1996, 1999, 2001, the St. John's Awards. So obviously, is that where you started out?
So I'm like you, I'm a transplant. I was born and raised in St. Augustine, graduated from St. Augustine High School. And yes, started my career in St. Johns County. And so there's a couple pieces of memorabilia over there. Had an opportunity to come to work in Putnam County and fell in love with it. I owned a home in St. Johns County, commuted for my first year or two over here, and just fell in love with it. Bought a house over here, ended up marrying a local girl, and just love it here. And you're absolutely right that it's a hidden gem. Sometimes Putnam County's worst enemy is our own people, the way that they talk about it. I think sometimes they think there may be some humor in some of the jokes and stuff, but it can be taken wrong. But this county is a great place to live and work. It's really picking up momentum. Actually, matter of fact, last night, I don't want to get off your topic, but it's a young man that lives across the street from me, bought a house across the street from me recently, and he's also a St. Augustine transplant, and just found the beauty, the friendliness over here. People know each other, people wave at each other, and just said it's something that doesn't really exist in St. Johns County or St. Augustine anymore, and he's moved over. So this is a great place to be. I mean, besides its natural beauty, the people are great. Like any place, it's got its challenges, but it's absolutely safe. Its crime rate in Putnam County is lower than the state average as a whole. It's lower than most of our adjoining counties. It's 50% lower than it was 8 years ago. There's nothing but great stuff on the horizon for this county, and I look forward to really seeing what it's going to look like. I hope we do a little bit better at managing the crowding and growth than some of our counties have done, but it's certainly coming, and there's great things on the horizon. I mean, we see investment in the county now, and record volume home construction, people wanting to move here. It's being discovered for the gem that it's always been that people just didn't recognize. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, I love it here. Yeah.
Where'd you go to high school?
St. Augustine High School.
St. Augustine. Did you play any sports?
I did. So I played baseball, and actually, believe it or not, I swam. Competitively swam in high school some, and so did that. Then from there, off to college and University of Florida, and went to the police academy actually while I was in college, and started as a reservist. And once I graduated, I went full time. So yeah, and I've lived in 3 places: St. Johns County, Alachua County, and Putnam County.
So you swam. So there could be some haunting pictures out
There
there.
could be, yeah, the Speedo type pictures. Yeah, of course I was built a little different in those days, but yeah. So yeah.
Oh.
Good thing that social media wasn't around. Probably all those pictures were on Polaroid or film somewhere. Yeah.
Luckily they're fading away.
Right. Yeah.
How about any hobbies in your younger years?
My hobbies have stayed very consistent, really, through the years. Grew up on the saltwater, so love saltwater fishing. Own a boat. My wife and I spent a lot of time on the boat, just boating, either hitting destinations, sightseeing, or actually doing some fishing, scuba diving. Of course, you probably know that I grew up from a very early age and still involved today in Boy Scouting. And so all the camping and adventure and hiking that comes along with that, and that's become a lifetime involvement for me. I had an opportunity last summer to take a group of the more senior Boy Scouts out to a 14-day trip to the Rocky Mountains in New Mexico, about an 80-mile backpacking trip through the mountains with everything you lived with for 2 weeks on your back, and just what a great adventure. So I really developed a love for the outdoors and that type of stuff through that. Never been like a gamer or any of that kind of
Right.
stuff. Mostly outdoor.
So you've exemplified protect and serve. You've done a lot of volunteering with the Boy Scouts and stuff as well.
I feel like I got so much out of the program, and so one is an opportunity to give back, but also, one of the downsides, if there is a downside to this career, is you see people at their worst. Especially, it can be easy to figure like, what's this world going to be like with the generations that are coming up nowadays? And to me, it's very refreshing to spend time with these young men, because you can spend a few days with these guys or several weeks with them on these hikes and just watch them, and you go, okay, yeah, we're in pretty good shape.
Right. We have the 4-H club meet at our church once or twice a month on Thursday nights. Like last night, they were there doing awards night, and I've seen both sides of everything too, and I worked with youth for a long time, and we do see a lot of negative, but there is a lot of positive out there, and that's kind of what I want to do with this, is try to focus on some of that, because we only see, it seems like the news, the media is only focused on the negative, but there's so much positive.
I don't know if it's somewhat human nature that we focus in on the negative sometimes. Certainly the news is what sells, and we know that that's just what that is. But it's the negative is far outweighed by the positive in this community and with our youth. So much 4-H is an outstanding FFA, all of those groups, and then of course the scouting, and then I came up through the Explorer Post as well, which is a scouting program. That's how I developed a love for law enforcement. Awesome. I had no thought process of it before. I was going to follow my dad's footsteps and go to the Marine Corps, and then I joined the Explorer Post, and first time I got to ride on a night shift in a patrol car, I changed my mind that minute at 14 that this is what I wanted to do. And that's a scouting program as well. And we have a very, very robust Explorer program here. Just another opportunity to see these kids.
I'm still scared about the ride-alongs. I know you push us to do ride-alongs. I don't know why I'm so nervous about it, but
well, I took. Matter of fact, the guy I mentioned earlier, young man who moved in with his young family across the street from me. He's kind of been curious too, so I actually took him out on the streets last night for a while.
Awesome.
So you're welcome with anytime you want to go do that. And luckily, last night was just average Putnam County night. Really, nothing really exciting going on. We had those nights just last night, and I said, I hadn't told him, this isn't every night. There was a point in time there was no law enforcement calls in the county last night, so I said, this isn't every night, but it was just nothing significant going on.
There was one early this morning, in fact, that woke me up.
Okay.
I heard a swoosh, swoosh, swoosh alarm. I heard the sirens. I was like, what in the world? And I guess somebody thought they had a break-in in Hollister this morning.
Okay.
But luckily, it was about 5 minutes later. They were coming back with lights off. It was an erroneous call.
Gotcha.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
How about mentors or influential people in your past or even today? Anybody that you would look to as being an influence in your life?
There's just probably so many to name. Obviously, was had a very good upbringing. Both mom and dad in the house. Mom, career educator. So obviously both of them, 100%. But through law enforcement, a great deal of them as well, and many of them are still even here, today or that I've worked with. Probably looking back and going to older and law enforcement, a couple of my sergeants that I had, those first line supervisors really mentored a lot. Just so many through the career, and then probably obvious most recently would be Gator, the sheriff. When I didn't expect to be offered this position, when he did, I think he thought for a minute that I might need to think on it, and I said, yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised at the offer, but I think you and I both, Gator and I both agreed that there was a lot of things that needed to change around here at that time, and I just thought it was an opportunity to be a part of it. So the amount of faith and confidence and trust that he's placed in me, and watching how he balances the responsibilities we have with the needs of the community and how he engages the community in his involvement. And so certainly he, of recent years, is probably the most significant. But there has been many of them through my career. And that's one of the things I think's great about this career is we get very tight, and we focus a lot on that mentorship and leadership. And, see, I've got leadership books on my desk. We study that and make a big part of it. But so there's been a lot, obviously starting with my parents, starting with, who's now deceased, but the Lieutenant Wayne Tanner, who was the leader of the Explorer Post in St. John's, where I was an Explorer at, he really fostered my love for law enforcement, and it grew from there. Yeah, absolutely. Just one other that I lean on a lot that I want to mention, because I've talked a lot about law enforcement mentors with my parents a little bit. Those are the naturals. But I've really found several of the pastors in Putnam County have been good, and there's some of them that I pick the phone up to from time to time. Hey, we're dealing with a little bit of a moral dilemma, or I need to vent a little bit. And so certainly one of those has significantly been Carl Flagg. He's speed dial for me, and when I say, hey, let me get your take on this, he's taught me a lot about respond, don't react, take some time, digest this, make sure your mind's right before you address it. So Carl is a pretty common reach out for me, and unfortunately, I probably should reach out to Carl more when things are going really well, but he gets those calls from me really like, hey, I need to bounce something off of you.
Be honest, that man makes me nervous. When he prays, I feel like my prayer is, God is great, God is good. Let us thank him for our food. When he prays, I'm like, how does he pray like that? You know? And I've actually written down some of his phrases that he's prayed, just for the fact that I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. Like, I need to use that one day when I pray.
Yeah, there is no comparison when it comes to that. And speaking about anything, I've often just wondered how, and I'm not sure that he prepares really at all. I think it all comes straight from the heart, and don't know how he does it.
Yeah, I'm asked to pray at something, and I've got it all typed out, and like, because I get nervous. It's funny thing is, I'm a people person. Right. I'm not a public person. Right. I'm a pastor, but I'm not a public speaker. I get nervous.
And you certainly don't want to follow Carl on an agenda.
No.
Yeah.
No. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier, probably the last couple of days, about the interview, and it's kind of funny because you mentioned Gator being one of your mentors, but I go back to who I believe is the GOAT of basketball would be Michael Jordan. But Michael Jordan wouldn't be Michael Jordan without a Scottie Pippen. And I kind of joke a little bit. I'm like, you'd have Gator be the Michael Jordan, and you'd be the Scottie Pippen, because you guys work hand in hand, it seems like.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate that.
It's a great, working relationship, because, sometimes our minds are and going in different directions, and sometimes we're not always, but the beauty of it is, and I think one of the reasons that may have been what his motivation was setting mine is, we may not always, agree on things, but that's good, because we're able to run opposite, or different thought processes off of each other, and get everything, together. And I think that when you're going to be in these positions, or any, same with you and your leadership positions and stuff, that you really have to rely on people that aren't always thinking exactly like you are, because you need to hear those contrasting points of view. But no, it's been great, and I think that, obviously I have a biased opinion, but I think the agency's come a million miles in the last 8 years, and looking forward to the next 4 with him, and just going from there. It's worked out good. He's very forward thinking, and he's very no matter how unorthodox or crazy this may sound, it's good for our community and we can do it. And I'm always the worst case scenario kind of guy. I'm like, yeah, but what if? And he's like, we'll get past it. Right. So I'm always trying to point out to him what the roadblocks might be. But I can't really think of an instance where he said, we'll get past those roadblocks, and we didn't. We were talking the other day, and I don't get off on too much on you, but when he had the idea that we need to protect our children in these schools, and the way to do that is we need to arm responsible members of the school staff, not classroom teachers, but otherwise. And this was before the Guardian program. This was unheard of. And I was like, okay, I don't disagree with the philosophy. I said, I think we got some roadblocks ahead of us. And we did, but because of his leadership and his stance in the community, it went through, and it's now a national model. He's been across the country talking about it. People reach out to us every day. How does your Guardian program work? I got Clay County sending me 15 or 20 people for us to train for them. So that was just an example of his foresight and how he visions ahead on things. So it's inspirational. Nothing's impossible with him.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your family life? You're married, I assume?
Yeah.
Children?
So no, we actually got married a little bit later in life, and just God always has His plans, and children just weren't possible for us, and just never happened. So I met her here. She was a communications operator, but for years I knew her ahead of time, Betsy, and then we ended up just getting married. And actually, May 8th is our anniversary, so right around the corner. And she's a local girl, graduated Interlochen High School, love her to death. And I joke with her sometimes and tell her the real reason I married her is because of the father-in-law I got. I love her dad, Tommy Underwood, and so yeah, no, but. We have a great time together. Like to do traveling. We have mutual interests. She loves the boat, and just really, really couldn't ask for anything better.
Imagine traveling.
Yeah.
Where's your favorite place you've been?
It's probably kind of have multiple interests there. We like at certain times of the year up toward the mountains and doing that, and then we like at times of the year we've been Costa Rica, multiple places in the Caribbean, Central America, a lot of those places, with the fishing attraction and that type of stuff. So up for anything. One of the things that's on our bucket list we're doing now is we want to do New England.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to catch like little, nothing that's touristy, but just little fishing villages, eat a bunch of lobster, and just like Maine, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So we're in kind of the planning phases of doing that. I've never been to the New England area. I think the furthest north I've been up the eastern coast is probably Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was there last year. Unfortunately, my uncle was murdered. We went up there for the funeral. My cousins, I have twin cousins that actually murdered my uncle. But a long story there, but very sad.
Yeah.
They had a lot of mental issues and stuff. But,
Sure.
But yeah, my mom and dad, they're from Blackstone, Massachusetts, Woonsocket, Rhode Island. And so we were up in Woonsocket, and it's beautiful up there.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I see on it, every time of the year I see what fall looks like up there, but summer. But yeah, we are looking forward to.
It's definitely not as flat as Florida.
Well, yeah.
It's not real mountainous, I don't think, but
Right.
I know in Woonsocket there's a beautiful dam right there. I got a video of it
Okay.
on my YouTube channel. But
I might get with you before we travel up there and get
It's
some,
really
some
pretty.
recommendations from you.
Our goal is we hit Boston. We spent a day there before we did anything else. A little bit of downtime after traveling, and the first thing I wanted was fish and chips.
Oh yeah,
So we got the
100%,
fish and chips. Went
Yeah.
to a little Irish tavern, I guess they would call it. I don't drink or anything, of
Right.
course, but we went in there, and my wife wanted clam chowder.
Okay.
And they were out of clam chowder. I'm like, how can you be in Boston and
Yeah.
out of clam chowder? But
Yeah.
anyway, we loved it. It was a good time. We had a good, in that part it was a good time. The rest of it was very difficult.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
But what are your earliest memories of childhood?
Gosh, probably all over the place. I remember very early years gaining my love for saltwater fishing from my dad and grandfather, flounder digging at night. I remember doing that very, very young. Of course, I have a lot of memories of scouting when I was young. First time going to summer camp and crying all week and that kind of stuff. But so probably a lot of early memories of that, and then spending time with. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of recollection of my grandfather on my mom's side. They were very close, but he was killed in a car accident when I was very young. So don't really have a lot of him. But my grandfather on my dad's side, World War II veteran, actually was in a German prison camp when my dad was born. Shot down. He was a bombardier. Shot down over Germany. But I remember him a lot, and they lived actually when I was growing up on a beachfront house on Milano Beach, North Beach over there. So probably a lot of time with those two, and stuff that, when I first got involved with scouting and my first camping trips and that.
You in your 40s?
I'm actually turned 50 this year in
Oh,
March.
awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am 50. Yeah.
47. My grandpa, he was a D-Day survivor.
Okay.
And there's
Absolutely,
a lot of
yeah.
stories. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, and that's another reason for this podcast. There's a lot of that generation didn't tell their stories. They were quiet about it.
Yeah.
And as a pastor, I've done a lot of funerals, and I find out about people as I'm preparing for the funeral. I'm like, how did I not know that? Like those are things that
Right.
our community should know about, like
Right.
good things and war heroes. And since I've been planning this, I got about 50 people in our community I want to interview, and hey, you should talk to this person at the school because they went through this. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So I've just there's a lot of neat things in our community that a lot of people want to meet and learn about. So I didn't grow up with my grandpa was a D-Day survivor, but I didn't know much about military and titles, and then especially the police force. I know there's a lot of interchangeable titles, but I had a hardest time figure out corporal or colonel.
Uh-huh.
And I was telling Randy Hayes this the other day. He goes, it's very simple. He says, remember this, when you're doing an interview, ask him for the 11 secret spices. He said, every colonel should know that. So I'm supposed to ask you for the 11 secret. I'm just kidding. That was a trick question, but
yeah. So
but he says that's how I'm going to remember.
Colonel Sanders. Yeah.
So now I'm remembering. Okay, it's colonel. So the whole time in here, like if I say the word colonel or corporal, I gotta make sure I say it right.
No,
but I don't want to insult you.
No.
But what are you? Let's see. We already talked about that. Talked about that as well. How about do you associate yourself with any religion or spiritual practice?
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in the Roman Catholic Church.
Okay.
I went to Catholic school all the way to high school.
You have scars to prove it on your knuckles?
I probably took a ruler across my knuckles by one of the nuns a time or two, yes. But loved it. The only reason, and my mom graduated from St. Joseph's in St. Augustine, the Catholic high school, and initially planned on that, but like I mentioned earlier, at that point my life dream was the military. But to do ROTC, I had to go to St. Augustine High School. So I went to public high school for my first time in the 9th grade.
Okay.
So yeah, still active in the Catholic Church, and spent a lot of time. And that's an early memory too. Is I would do serve mass as an altar boy a lot in the church, and I can remember sometimes, especially on Saturdays, in between things that I was doing at the church and in St. Augustine at the cathedral. And so the priest lived behind it is going watching football with the priest, and so a lot of them were big in my life. And of course, everything stopped on Saturday if Notre Dame was playing. So yeah, I'd watch Notre Dame football a little bit. But so those are early memories too that I didn't even think about till you mentioned it. But yeah, so born and raised in the Catholic Church.
So you have a football from Florida State or from University of Florida,
right?
But you grew up watching Notre Dame.
Well,
Do you have any
I've always been a
biases?
huge Florida fan, but Notre Dame's I actually have 3 teams that I follow very closely: University of Florida, Notre Dame, and Navy. Because my dad was
Okay.
Marine Corps, so he's a Navy fan. We grew up with Navy football a lot.
Did you make
so.
it to the military?
Nope, never
Okay.
did. Like I said, straight out of high school, college, police academy, and here. So did not follow in that footsteps with my grandfather and my dad. But there's maybe some time I was like, I should have taken a few years and done that before. But I really feel like that I've been able to, serve the community in this position, and this has just been incredibly rewarding. And so no big regrets there. But no, I did never make it. Yeah.
Have you ever experienced a miracle or an answer to a prayer that you'd like to share?
Yeah, 100%. Probably more than I can count, especially in this line of work. It's funny this one comes up because I actually mentioned this last night to a young man I was talking to. So probably the one that comes to memory the most is an incident that happened with a couple of our guys, and you probably would remember. We had two of our deputies involved in a very significant traffic crash several years ago, and so I recall vividly the memory of getting that call, and I was able to make it to Putnam Hospital before they were loaded on the ambulances, and I stepped into one of the ambulances where one of them was, and Tina Hitchcock was there. She was the on-duty rescue supervisor. This one's a little emotional, but I don't mind the emotion, so I'm just an emotional person. But so I stepped on one of the ambulances, and she came and got me. She goes, "You need to get on the other one." And I kind of looked at her, and she goes, "I don't know we're going to get him to the hospital. It's really, really bad." So I remember kneeling over those guys and just dealing with that. Got the sheriff there. The sheriff and I got to Orange Park Medical Center and Warp Speed and got in there and got some really good news after we got there. And the attending ER doctor said, mostly because of how phenomenally Putnam County Fire Rescue did their job, he's going to live. His internal injuries were significant, but at the point when I got on that ambulance and was told, you need to find his wife and get ready for this. This is the one we need to worry about. And but he's at work today. He's a miracle. Both of these guys are, but the one that was more significant, and they're both just excellent young men. And one of them is still fighting his way back to active duty. But the other one is there. He works sex crimes for us. You've seen him in the media a lot lately. Just tracking these monsters down every single day. And so from always being a great local young man to almost career potentially ending over this, life potentially ending over this to now he's saving children in our community from predators, and that's a miracle, 100%.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to visit both of those gentlemen in the hospital, and you're right. There was some major hills to climb.
Yeah.
The one specifically, he came to our church when we gave out the backpacks that year.
Okay.
And it was just a few weeks after that. I think it was 21 maybe or 20, and I was like, wait a minute, that's the guy. And I was like, it kind of brought our church closer to pray for us, because it's not just someone you see on TV. It's a guy that just sat in the pews next to you a few weeks ago, and you had lunch with him, or whatever. And that was pretty serious. So there was some definitely miracles to that. I was wondering too, and the Lord definitely allowed that to happen in a good way. I think I covered a lot of the questions that I had. Talked about your bucket list, traveling some more.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about positive, negative changes. We talked about that already. I have some lightning round questions. I'm going to do a couple more of these real quick.
Okay.
So kind of a silly, but do you have a song that you call your song, or your wife and you have our song? Are you into music at all?
I love music, and my music tastes are all over the place, from older to modern to country to whatever, but I probably really don't have that one particular song that really resonates with me so much. But my music tastes are all over the place, and I think it drives my wife crazy sometimes.
I like a variety of music as well, and it seems like every song I hear brings back a memory to something, whether it's good or bad.
It depends on this situation. A lot of times I remember when I was working the streets and out there, those were more upbeat rock kind of stuff, and then on the boat I like more of the Caribbean style. It just depends on where I'm at. My music tastes are all over the place, from country to rhythm and blues to it's probably weird, I love like 50s and 60s music. Yeah.
You didn't ask me, but I'll tell you, I collect 70s Christian music.
Okay.
And it's not the quartet music.
Right.
I like the 70s Petra and some of those old 70s, I don't know, the early Christian,
right.
I usually just Christian music mainly, but the 70s, I have a lot of records, so this is weird. I buy them, and then I'll go home and listen to them. I don't like it, I'll just get rid of it, but I can get them so cheap now.
Yeah.
But, I guess the last question, it's kind of a different type of question, but it doesn't have to necessarily mean between you and your wife, but just in your relationships in general. This is kind of like a gut question almost, like, is there any, I don't want to use our character flaw, because that's probably a little too, but is there anything about you that, when it comes to relationships, that you kind of have to learn to overcome, that you have overcome, or is there anything that you struggle with in relationships, just in general?
It's an ongoing battle, but I'll tell you probably the biggest thing that I have to really be cognizant of and struggle with is making sure that my relationships get ample time, and that this position, this job, even before this actual position as the undersheriff, is that it doesn't totally consume me and that I lose track of that. So it is a balancing act. These jobs are demanding, and not to mention that I'm passionate about it, so I want to be here doing the job, and just making sure that my wife gets those times with her. My parents are both, aging, and I'm really, I would say struggling, but focusing very much on realizing that I only have a limited time with them, and that when that phone call comes in that says "Mom," and you got to take it every time, and it's tough sometimes to say I got other stuff going on, but. So I think it's been this way, it's a time management issue to make sure that I don't allow this, and when I say this position, not the undersheriff, but the law enforcement position is all just consume me totally, to where I neglect those relationships. And that has been a challenge. My wife is very supportive and has never said, "Hey, I need some time with you," but I've been able to read her sometimes. I'm like, "Hey, hey, I'm going to go in and do this weekend or whatever," and I see that look, and I'm like, okay, maybe not. Maybe we spend some time together. But you can't ask for anybody more supportive, and I think part of that is because she understands the career somewhat because of her time in it. She works for Mount Reynolds at Clerk of Courts now, but spent a long time around law enforcement. But I think that's the biggest thing, and I think that I have not always done a good job with that. Not always put family and those relationships first, and it's really starting to hit home with me as my dad approaches 80. As the effects of his military service, especially through all the Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam, are really starting to show themselves that time's limited there, and while this being in law enforcement is what I love and I'm passionate about it, they're my family and I've got to put them first. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, my mom, she just went through some surgery, having spinal stenosis, diabetic. So it's hard to watch your parents go through that.
Yeah.
And, you know, mom was always, when my dad went to college, I was in elementary school at the time. He went to college. My mom worked 2 jobs to help get him through school. He worked several jobs, but to see your mom with a walker and shuffling and can't hold something, just dropping, it just, life kind of hits you a little different when you get older.
Betsy and my wife, we take my parents, because her parents are obviously getting up there too, but they're not experiencing some of the medical issues and the signs of age that mine are. So we had a family tradition that pretty much growing up, every fall we went up to somewhere in the mountains, and they're just not able to do that on their own anymore. So we take them every year and just really enjoy those times together. But there's been years I thought about, I can't really do that this year. Be like, this might be. So now it's every year might be the last year. So it's just got to happen.
I have a daughter she's graduating next week from Pensacola Christian, and my mom can't go because she can't drive the distance anymore.
Yeah.
But then she's getting married a few weeks later up in Las Vegas, and my parents can't go. So it's, like you said, do what you can while you can.
Yeah.
And they're still alive. They're still semi-healthy, but they're not that old either. But time is definitely limited. Well, here's a couple lightning. You don't have to draw, go on and on about these. These are just simple lightning round questions. But
I do have a habit of going on and on. People.
Oh no! That's what we want to do. I know. I wanted that. These are pretty simple though. If you could meet one famous person,
alive or dead, or either matter, doesn't matter. I'll tell you, it probably doesn't share the same political affiliation that I do now, but I've always been fascinated and read tons of stuff about John F. Kennedy.
Okay.
His handling of Cuban Missile Crisis, his overcoming of the constant pain that he was in. Obviously, he had his flaws. We all know that. But yeah, I would love to sit down with him for a little bit. Yeah.
I guess it's kind of a dual question, but the last book you read, or a book you've read or recommend?
I've gotten... Lately, most of my reading has been mostly a lot of leadership focused. Probably one of the greatest ones I've read is Extreme Ownership that was there. But I also love one called It's Your Ship by a Abercrombie retired Navy commander. Took the worst ship in the Navy that was failing everything they had, got aboard that ship and really empowered his folks. And next thing you know, it's years and years running, was the most effective guided missile destroyer in the Navy. So I read a lot of that. Reading one now on Steve Rose's recommendation that's called Leaders Eat Last.
Okay.
So I've got a lot into the leadership stuff, but probably if you're looking for more of a lighthearted, enjoyable leadership type thing, It's Your Ship's a phenomenal book.
Okay.
Yeah. But I like reading about old Florida and all that kind of stuff too. Yeah.
So 2 more. What's the stupidest dare you ever agreed to, or challenge, or something that you've taken that was just
stupidest dare? Well. Yeah, I'll tell you. And the bad thing is I've taken the stupid dare more than once.
The same one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I grew up, obviously, in St. Augustine. I had a lot of great family and friends that had property down around Matanzas Inlet. So we spent tons of time down around Marineland and Matanzas Inlet, and just it's a huge part of my childhood. Matter of fact, my wife and I spent some time down there. A buddy of mine from grew up with in college spent some time there last weekend. But I may have jumped off the Matanzas Inlet Bridge a few times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you not supposed to do that?
No, it's strongly frowned upon. The current under there is horrible. It's off of the state highway, so right off the A1A. So yeah, probably.
So now
probably not legal and probably not.
So on the brass, you probably wouldn't do that anymore.
Yeah. So try not to jump off the Matanzas Inlet Bridge anymore. But it became a childhood tradition, so we just had to keep doing it. And the last time I did, I was a little bit older, and that's kids, and then of course. Childhood friends are out there doing it. You ain't gonna be the one on the shore watching this jump off.
Right.
Yeah, so I've done that time.
And we gave a wonderful lesson to the high school this week about peer pressure. But anyway,
peer pressure is 100% what made me jump off that bridge last time. Yeah.
So last question: who's the most famous person in your contacts?
In my contact list?
Like if I had to say, hey, call them right now. Who? Anybody famous?
Just because of this. Well, depends on. I don't have any. Sports stars or celebrities or anything in there, but just because of this position I do, and one of the things we're lucky to have, here in Florida is just really approachable, dedicated leaders. So got the governor's phone in my phone. I'm not saying he'd answer it, but I have his phone number. I have picked up the phone and he's answered on the first, Senator Rick Scott, so just really having in those and how approachable they are. I tell you, Attorney General Ashley Moody, she answers the phone, and I have a lot of respect for her. So yeah, a lot of these local leaders, which was shocking to me today. Hey, here's my cell phone number. If you need me, call me.
Right.
Like, these people won't have time for the undersheriff of Putnam County to call them,
Right.
but they pick the phone up.
I'm sure if you hit FaceTime, they put an answer, but
Probably, yeah. But no, they will or get back with you, or even sometimes their aide or assistant says hey, the FDLE commissioner's not available, but he wants to make sure we reach back out to you. What can we do? That type of stuff. So I've always appreciated that and been very surprised at that. And talking to counterparts, especially in other states, they don't enjoy that. Florida is just a wonderful place to be in this line of work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I put on the email, you don't have to, but just if you want to, I put in here that you have an opportunity if you want to ask me one of the questions I asked you, or a lightning round question, anything you want to ask of me.
So you got me curious just a little bit. What famous person would you say I talk to?
So the famous person on my phone, that's actually a really good question.
Oh, yeah, you get one on your phone, and then who would you sit down and have a conversation with?
Okay.
Yeah.
So the famous person, that's actually changed over the years because I was very into politics at one time, and I would have loved to have met Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
I don't know why,
Yeah.
but I think because of that, I wanted to meet Glenn Beck, and I did that. But I met him before he was popular. He was actually in Tampa, and I met Glenn Beck at an air show. Had a little conversation with him. But aside from those two, when it came to sports, I was a big Jeff Gordon fan.
Oh yeah.
So I love Jeff Gordon.
Yeah.
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
I mean, I could sit here and be a pastor, and I could give you these, biblical people.
Mhm.
I would say Peter in the
Yeah.
Bible would be one eventually we'll have a chance to sit down and talk with, because he reminds me of myself a lot.
Yeah.
Just totally doing stupid things,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was Peter. Man, now you got me. I should have thought this through a little bit
Yeah.
more. But those are the ones I would say right off the bat.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one. Sorry,
Good,
Cal
yeah.
Ripken, and I should have said that.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Cal Ripken stayed with the Baltimore Orioles
Right.
through his whole career and was very consistent.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but as a kid, my goal was to have perfect attendance at school.
Yeah.
And one year I had perfect attendance. My dad came to pick me up early because I was really sick. And the teachers, and I said, but if I leave now, I'm going to lose my perfect attendance. She says, well, if you wait until this time, then you'll still get it. And so I literally went to the bathroom, threw up and waited, and then my dad took me home. And then I got my perfect attendance. I don't know why, but someone like him who's just dedicated and it'd be Cal Ripken. I don't know why I didn't think about that.
There's a ton of those, great people. I've always followed public speaking, so I'm attracted to people who do deliver great speaking, and that's what first got me into Kennedy was some of the, that's what what you can do for your country, and that and Ronald Reagan. I loved his speaking. He'd be a great one to sit down with. But yeah, all good stuff, and probably like biblical. I read a lot. It's obviously St. Joseph, my namesake, and the post-class mom's grandfather on my mom's side too. But St. Francis. I always read a lot about St. Francis. So yeah, it's
awesome.
Interesting stuff.
Have you read the G.K. Chesterton book?
I have not.
Okay, I'll get you. I have actually a copy. I have a couple copies at home. I'll get you one.
Yeah.
So, well, that was actually kind of painless once I got past the beginning. I forgot to turn on the recorder.
Okay.
I tried to turn it on. I mean, recorded on the iPad, but I tried to do it on this, and then I'm like, I gave up on that. I forgot all about it.
Okay.
But, anyway, well, I appreciate it.
It's I don't mind. I get interviews, obviously the media type ones a lot, but it's just nice to have just really just a friendly conversation. There happens to be a camera over there.
Yeah, I forgot about that a couple times.
Yeah.
But when I scratch my nose, I'm like, oh great, that's going to show
and
my
the
camera.
media has me so trained to make sure I look at it a lot of times, or sometimes they want you to look at the reporter or the camera, so it's kind of odd to me that it was over there and we were here, but
that was odd. I did that a couple times, but
I think
you just did the same thing.
yeah, looking at it, so
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, man.
God bless you.
Yeah,
Colonel Wells,
come by anytime, and if you ever want to get out there on the street a little bit, just do some rides.
I'm working on it. I'm trying to get that.
It's I encourage anybody to do it. you'll see the human side of the law enforcement officers out there. You'll see their passion for the community and their passion for the job, and also see just a lot of the great folks that we see in the community. These guys really do, and girls, go out there every day and just give it everything they have. And the philosophy that the sheriff has, and I support 100%, is a couple of. One is our job is not only to police the community, we have to be part of it. You mentioned a lot of that. And to effectively police it, we have to be part of it. So it's more than that. We need to be involved in our churches, involved with our youth groups, making sure our kids are on sports groups in the community so that we're part of it, to really understand it. And you'll see that they really buy into the sheriff's philosophy, is that the sheriff in Florida has a unique history, and it's probably it is, in my opinion, the most effective in the nation, with very powerful sheriff's associates, very good. But that's all built on the fact that Florida sheriffs pride themselves in not being call takers, being problem solvers. And we work really hard with our deputies and get them to buy in that the worst sentence we can use when we go out there in the streets. Most of the calls we go to are not criminal in nature. There's somebody that doesn't know where to turn, and tell all of them when we meet them, when they come on board, that the worst thing you could ever say is, "There's nothing I can do for you." You might get a call to a lady who's a single mom and her electricity's been turned off, and so she didn't know who to call, and she's called you. I get it, you can't turn the electricity back on. But that's why we provide you all these resources. Get on this list that you have, find her a resource, get her on the phone with somebody, do something. But it just, nothing infuriates me or disappoints me more if a law enforcement officer says, "Nothing I can do for you." They just don't know where to call. Everybody knows how to get in touch with us. 3 easy numbers. So whether it's your lights are turned off and you got kids, my child won't behave, he's running away, he won't go to school, those things that people typically would think are not our issue, to the office of sheriff they are, because we have to solve people's problems. Yeah.